Number 3. Regina Filomena Rachid. In autumn 2005, 55-year-old Raymond Merrill, a former musician and carpenter, was living in San Bruno, California. Merrill flipped houses for a living, and he was successful. He then invested his money well, so in his mid-50s, he was living a comfortable lifestyle. When Merrill was younger, he had lived in Buenos Aires, Argentina, where he played in rock bands. He got married and lived there until 1998. That year, he divorced his wife and moved back to the United States with his new girlfriend. After several years of dating, Merrill and his girlfriend broke up. He dated another woman long-term, but eventually broke up with her. In autumn 2005, Raymond Merrill turned to the internet, hoping to find his next love. He had always been attracted to women from South America, so he decided to look for a match abroad. He connected with 40-year-old Regina Filomena Rachid, who lived in São José de Campos, Brazil. The two hit it off, and before long, they were exchanging illicit emails and photographs. In November 2005, Merrill went to Brazil and met Rachid. He had planned to stay a week, but he was enjoying himself so much that he stayed for several days longer. When Merrill returned to the United States, he found an unknown charge for $8,000 on one of his credit cards that was made in Brazil. Merrill didn't think that the charge had anything to do with his girlfriend. Merrill had given Rachid money. She wanted to start a new cosmetic clinic, and Merrill sent her $10,000. He also paid for her 18-year-old daughter's college tuition. On January 17, 2006, Merrill returned to Brazil. As opposed to last time, when he stayed with Rachid at her home, on this trip, Merrill mostly stayed in hotels. He had told her friend he didn't feel comfortable staying at Rachid's home. Once again, Merrill was enjoying himself, so he decided to stay in Brazil longer. But then the trip came to an abrupt end. Merrill purchased a $20,000 SUV for Rachid. However, Rachid was unhappy with the gift. She wanted an SUV that was valued at $50,000. They argued, and Rachid called Merrill a stupid American. Merrill returned home, believing the relationship was over. Once again, Merrill found mysterious charges on his credit card. This time, the total was $20,000. Merrill considered the possibility that Rachid had stolen from him. Then, much to his surprise, he received a message online from Rachid's 18-year-old daughter. Apparently, Rachid didn't think that the relationship was over. In fact, Rachid wanted to marry him on March 27, 2006, which was Merrill's 56th birthday. To start setting up the wedding, she needed $1,600. Merrill sent her the money, and on March 21st, 6 days before the wedding and his birthday, he returned to Brazil. He brought a $5,000 engagement ring with him. Once again, Merrill did not return home as he planned. What Merrill's friends and family found strange was that he stopped communicating with them when he arrived in Brazil. He wouldn't respond to emails, even important ones. For example, his sister emailed him to tell him that their father was dying, and she didn't receive a reply. On May 2, 2006, their father died, and Merrill didn't show up for the funeral. It had been about 6 weeks since Merrill went to Brazil, and since his family heard from him last. On May 8, 2006, Merrill's sister reported him missing. The authorities of Brazil talked to Regina Rachid. Rachid told the police that Merrill had left in early April to visit a friend in the coastal city of Parate. The police talked to the friend he was supposed to visit, and she said that Merrill didn't come to her home. Money continued to be withdrawn from one of Merrill's bank accounts. The withdrawals began 6 weeks before Merrill went missing on February 2, 2006. The withdrawals continued until May 12, 2006, and then the bank froze the account. About $132,000 had been withdrawn from the account. On May 24, 2006, after the bank froze the account, the bank received an email from a Hotmail account with Merrill's name. The email was rife with grammatical errors. The writer demanded that the bank reactivate his card. The emailer, posing as Merrill, said he was remaking his life in Brazil. The writer also wanted $50,000. The emailer also said that the bank should be more respectful to them because their father had just died. While the money was being withdrawn in Brazil, Merrill's bills went unpaid and his family was facing foreclosure. After the email was received, the investigators concluded that Merrill was probably dead. However, they had no evidence to arrest anyone for the murder. There was no murder weapon, crime scene, or dead body. The investigators believed that Rachid killed or had Merrill killed and stole his money. However, they didn't have any evidence to prove it. They believed it would take a stroke of luck to have the case solved. That stroke of luck happened on June 2, 2006. A man and a woman had tried to rob a black market currency dealer. They attacked the currency dealer in his car, but he was able to get away. The woman left her purse behind in the currency dealer's car. The currency dealer reported the attempted robbery to the police and gave them the purse. The purse belonged to Rachid and it contained one of Merrill's bank cards. Rachid was arrested that day and charged with robbery. This allowed the police to get a search warrant for her home. They noted that her home had recently been upgraded. It was freshly painted and there was new furniture and appliances. Her daughter had a new luxury car. Rachid also had a wish list of things she planned to buy. Other evidence taken from Rachid's home included packages of the sedatives Rohypnol and Rivotril. Both drugs were purchased with forged prescriptions. The police questioned Regina Rachid. She denied knowing anything about Raymond Merrill's whereabouts. She maintained that he went to visit a friend. He had also given her access to his bank accounts. The police believed that the man who tried to rob the currency dealer with Rachid was her boyfriend, Nelson Sequeira Neves. Sequeira had a history of fraud. The police showed the currency dealer a photo of Sequeira with several of his friends that they got from Sequeira's social media. The currency dealer surprised the police by picking another man in the photo. He said that Evandro Celso Augusto Ribeiro was the man with Rachid who tried to rob him. The police went to bring in Sequeira and Ribeiro for questioning, but they were nowhere to be found. Months later, in September 2006, a man called the police. The caller said that a man in the beach town, Cabo Frio, had gotten drunk at a local bar and bragged about killing a gringo and setting his body on fire. The police determined it was Evandro Celso Augusto Ribeiro. Ribeiro was arrested. He was told that Rachid was talking about the murder and blaming him for everything. Ribeiro then started talking. He claimed he had nothing to do with the murder, but he did help dispose of the body. He said that on April 1st he helped move the body from Rachid's home to a rented car. Rachid was in the driver's seat, Merrill's body was in the front passenger seat, then he and Sequeira were in the back seat. They put a seatbelt on Merrill to make it look like he was asleep. They drove 25 miles to a dirt road on the outskirts of the city. They pulled the body from the car to the side of the road. They poured diesel on the body and then set it on fire. Ribeiro explained that he was offered $6,000 to help move the body. He demanded money, but Rachid and Sequeira didn't have the money to pay him. Instead, they set up the scheme to rob the currency dealer so that Ribeiro would get his money. The police looked at their records, and on April 2nd, a burnt body was found on the dirt road that Ribeiro claimed they dumped the body on April 1st. Some copper wire was around his neck. The man had no identification on him. A local newspaper printed a photo of the body. but the man didn't match any missing persons reports, and no one claimed the body, so he was buried as an indigent. DNA and dental records determined it was the dead body of 56-year-old Raymond Merrill. The investigators concluded that Regina and Rachid, possibly working with Nelson Sequeira Neves, went online looking for a man to scam. They stole money from Merrill over several months. Then Rachid lured Merrill to Brazil for a third time. Rachid, and most likely Sequeira, kept Merrill drugged for at least 6 days. During that time, they managed to get all his banking information. Then either Rachid, Sequeira, or possibly Evandro Celso Augusto Ribeiro strangled him with copper wire. Although Ribeiro claimed he wasn't involved in the murder, just the disposal of the body, the police did not believe him. First, Rachid and Ribeiro were tried for the attempted robbery of the currency dealer. Rachid was sentenced to 7 years and Ribeiro was sentenced to 5 years. Rachid, Ribeiro, and Sequeira didn't go to trial for the murder of Ray Merrill until November 2021, 15 years after they were arrested. The trial lasted 3 days. Rachid was found guilty and sentenced to 30 years for murder. Ribeiro was found guilty of concealing a corpse and sentenced to 3 years. However, it took too long for him to go to trial, and the statute of limitations had run out, so he would not have to serve his sentence. Sequeira's lawyer pointed out that there is no evidence of his involvement other than Ribeiro's testimony. He was acquitted of all charges. Rachid filed an appeal, and in March 2022, she was released to await the decision on her appeal. Her sentence was ultimately reduced to 20 years of prison. She was supposed to turn herself in, but she went on the lam. She was finally arrested on August 5, 2023 and sent back to prison. It's believed that she'll be paroled in 5 or 6 years. Number 2. David Eisenhauer and Natalie Keepers. In 2015, 13-year-old Nicole Lovell lived with her mother in Blacksburg, Virginia. Like many teenagers, she often was on social media and used the app Kik to chat with other people. On the morning of January 27, 2016, Nicole's mother, Tammy Weeks, went to open her bedroom door, but the nightstand was blocking the door. Tammy managed to force open the door and found the bedroom empty. She immediately called Nicole's phone, but went directly to voicemail. Tammy called her daughter's phone repeatedly, and her text went unanswered. As the hours passed, Tammy became increasingly concerned. Nicole was born with a damaged liver and received a liver transplant when she was a year old. She had to take daily anti-rejection medication. However, her medication was still at home. Tammy called the police. There were no signs that Nicole had been kidnapped. They suspected she had left out of her bedroom window. However, they didn't think she had run away and planned to return because she didn't take her life-saving medication. The only thing missing from the home besides Nicole was her Minions blanket. The disappearance of 13-year-old Nicole Lovell shocked the people of Blacksburg. More than 1,200 people joined the search for Nicole, but no one found a clue to her whereabouts. One of the first things the police did was look at Nicole's social media accounts. Luckily for the police, Nicole had written down her usernames and passwords on her bedroom wall. They learned that Nicole was depressed and lonely. She had been bullied at school because of her surgical scars. She also had a problematic relationship with her father, who had served time for drugs and had other run-ins with the law. Nicole wanted her father's love and attention. 2 days after Nicole went missing, through records from Kik, the police discovered that Nicole was talking to a user with the name Dr. Tombstone. The police used the IP address and identified him as 18-year-old David Eisenhauer. Eisenhauer was an engineering student at Virginia Tech, which is in Blacksburg. Eisenhauer was a high school track star and a straight-A student from Columbia, Maryland. He had been named Athlete of the Year in high school. Eisenhauer was brought in for questioning 3 days after Nicole went missing. He admitted to meeting Nicole outside of her home that night. He said it was the first time they had met. But when he realized how young she was, he left. He claimed that he didn't do anything to her. The police knew that Eisenhauer was lying about their relationship because of the kick records. They had been talking online for months after meeting online. They had met up at least one time, and it's believed that it was an intimate encounter. The police also knew that Eisenhauer had purchased a shovel from Walmart on the day Nicole went missing. He explained he bought it for snow shoveling. He said he was with someone when he bought the shovel, and they would verify that it was for shoveling snow. He said he was with another first-year engineering student, 19-year-old Natalie Keepers. Keepers was a bright young woman who enjoyed musical theater, and one day she hoped to work for NASA, like her father. The same day Eisenhauer was brought in for questioning, Keepers was questioned by the police as well. She admitted to her role in Nicole's disappearance. Keepers said Eisenhauer had previously had sex with Nicole. He was worried that she was pregnant and was going to make the relationship public. Since she was underage, this could be devastating for the 18-year-old college freshman. Keeper said that she and Eisenhauer had been brainstorming the best way to kill Nicole and get away with it for about a month. On January 20th, 6 days before the murder, they went out for dinner at a local fast food restaurant and finalized the plan to kill Nicole. They decided it would be best if he took her to a wooded area and slit her throat. On the day of the murder, Keepers and Eisenhauer went to Walmart where they bought a shovel, and then they went out for dinner. After dinner, Eisenhauer dropped off Keepers at her home. Eisenhauer had convinced Nicole to sneak out of her home. He picked her up, took her to a wooded area where he killed her. Keeper said the next day Eisenhauer picked her up. They went back to Walmart and purchased cleaning supplies. Then they went to the forest where Eisenhauer killed Nicole. They loaded her body in the trunk and then dumped the body across the state line in Surrey County, North Carolina. The next day, the police found the body of Nicole Lovell. Nicole had been stabbed 14 times, including having her throat slit. The police found more evidence connecting David Eisenhauer and Natalie Keepers to the murder. In David Eisenhauer's trunk, they found blood and a shovel stained with blood. The cleaning supplies they purchased were found in Keepers' home. Also found in Keepers' home was Nicole's missing Minions blanket. In February 2018, David Eisenhauer went on trial for Nicole Lovell's murder. He pleaded not guilty. But after 3 days, Eisenhauer changed his plea to no contest. The judge accepted the plea, and Eisenhauer was sentenced to 50 years of prison without the chance of parole. Natalie Keepers' 3-day trial for being an accessory to the murder began on September 17, 2018. One big question was, why did Keepers get involved in the murder? She had nothing to gain, and there was no evidence she was romantically involved with Eisenhauer. They had met that year at school and were acquaintances, but they didn't appear to be especially close. The prosecution said that she was, quote, excited to be part of something secretive and special, unquote. There was plenty of evidence against Keepers, including her own confession. There were also many incriminating kick messages between Keepers and Eisenhauer. After the murder, Keepers told Eisenhauer to have a good night's sleep because he deserved it. It took the jury just an hour to reach a verdict. Natalie Keepers was found guilty of being an accessory to murder and sentenced to 40 years of prison without the chance of parole. At the time of this recording, 28-year-old David Eisenhauer is serving a sentence at the Greensville Correctional Center in Greensville County, Virginia. His projected release date is September 2059, when he'll be 62. 28-year-old Natalie Keepers is incarcerated at the Filomena Correctional Center in Troy, Virginia, and she's projected to be released in November 2051 when she'll be 54. Number 1. Takahiro Shiraishi. In October 2017, the police were investigating the disappearance of 23-year-old Aiko Tamamura of Hochi, a city in the Tokyo, Japan metropolitan area. About a month earlier, on September 20, 2017, Tamura posted a distressing tweet on Twitter. She was looking for someone to die with. Then, on October 23, 2017, Tamura went missing. Tamura's family quickly noted her absence. Her brother was able to access her Twitter account. He discovered a disturbing conversation between her and another user who contacted her because of her posts, and they made a pact. On October 24th, Tamura's brother went to the police. The police investigated the Twitter messages, and it led them to 27-year-old Takahiro Shiraishi. On Halloween Day 2017, the police went to Shiraichi's apartment. They made a gory discovery. In 3 cooler boxes and 5 large storage bins, they found dismembered body parts. It was determined to be the remains of 9 people, 8 women and 1 man. Shiraishi had sprinkled kitty litter over the bodies to hide the stench. However, several neighbors had noticed a horrifying odor for several weeks. They did not report it to anyone. Takahiro Shiraichi's crimes made headlines around the world. Shiraishi was born in October 1990 in Tokyo, Japan. By all accounts, he was a quiet, ordinary child. He was an average student and enjoyed baseball. Shiraishi graduated in 2009, and after graduating, he worked at a supermarket for about 2 years. Around 2015, he became a scout for the red light district. He tried to recruit young women to do sex work. He developed a bad reputation for being creepy. In February 2017, Shiraishi was arrested for trying to recruit a minor. He received a suspended jail sentence for the offense. After his arrest, he moved back in with his parents. In August 2017, Shiraishi abruptly moved out of his parents' home and into a tiny apartment in Zama Kanganagawa Prefecture, a quiet community southwest of Tokyo. He created 5 Twitter accounts, which he used to lure his victims. On one account, he described himself as a professional hangman who could help people who wanted to be hanged. On one account, his username was Hanging Pro. He then looked for desperate and despondent women online and offered to end their pain. He said he would help them by killing them painlessly, or they would end things together. Instead, when they came to his apartment, he strangled them with a rope and then dismembered their bodies in his bathtub with knives and a saw. The remains were stored in containers around his apartment, and he would dispose of smaller body parts in garbage bags over time. Shiraishi said that the first dismemberment took him 3 days, but by the second victim, he could do it in a single day. Shiraishi met all but one of his victims on Twitter. His first victim was 21-year-old Mizuki Mira, who went missing around August 23, 2017. He killed again 5 days later on August 28th. He lured 15-year-old Hirohara Ishihara to his apartment. 2 days after that murder, on August 30th, 20-year-old Shogo Nishinaka, a friend of the first victim, went to Shiraichi's apartment. Nishinaki confronted him about Mira's whereabouts. Shiraishi strangled the 20-year-old man to cover up his crimes. About 2.5 weeks later, on September 16th, he murdered 19-year-old university student Hanako Shirashina. The next murder happened about a week later. The victim was 26-year-old Hitomi Fujima, a wife and mother to a young daughter. Akiri Suda was 17 and wanted to be a manga artist. However, on September 26, 2017, she went to Shiraichi's apartment and never left. Shiraichi's seventh victim was 17-year-old Natsumi Kubo, who was killed on September 30th. On October 18, 2017, 25-year-old Kazumi Mayurama, a convenience store employee, was killed by Shiraishi. Then finally, on October 23, 2017, Shiraishi strangled to death 23-year-old Aiko Tamura, leading to his arrest. Shiraishi made a full confession. He alerted all 8 female victims to his apartment after meeting them on Twitter. So in the media, he became known as the Twitter Killer. In 2 months, he had claimed the lives of 9 people. Shiraishi also admitted to sexually assaulting some of the victims just before they died, and sometimes just after. Takahiro Shiraishi went to trial in September 2020, 3 years after he was arrested. The evidence was overwhelming, and he pleaded guilty to the 9 murders. In December 2020, he was sentenced to death. Shiraishi accepted his punishment and did not appeal his sentence. In Japan, execution dates are not known ahead of time, so inmates sit on death row, and any day could be the day that they are executed. For Takahiro Shiraishi, that day was June 27, 2025. That morning, the 34-year-old was taken from his cell and hanged. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, we'd really appreciate it if you subscribed. Also, don't forget to watch our shorts on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Once again, thank you for watching.